Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Chip Hackler, who lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, and is the writer and director of the short film First Memory. Chip, really cool. Was that a memory of yours?
Yes, it's loosely based on two different periods of my life. The first memory was being stuck in the car. The second memory was a little more fictional.
And is that why you decided to do it?
Yes, just quickly, what happened was I was getting ready to make another film, and then the pandemic hit, and the other film became impossible under those circumstances. And so I began like searching through some older scripts for something that I could do that I thought would be more simple. And I found this one, and it turned out it wasn't as simple. It still wasn't that simple, but anyway, this is the one that I decided to make.
Yeah, getting it out of that ditch.
Right. It's more to that than meets the eye. Yeah.
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 You know, it always takes so much time to do these films. So what are some of your takeaways?
I think one of my takeaways is that the part of filmmaking that I really love is being on the set with other collaborators and other people, whether it's the actors or, the cinematographer, the sound people, the hair and makeup, just everybody. That's really the fun part for me. And the writing that comes before that is a little bit more solitary and typically, and then the editing that comes after tends to be a little more of a solitary experience, but which I like them all. Don't get me wrong, but I really love that one in the middle. So that's probably my biggest takeaway is how much I enjoy that part. That's what I think as filmmakers, we're always striving to get to that part, at least maybe narrative filmmakers, is to be on the set with the other people making the movie.
So you had two little boys on the set too. How was it, adults and kids? What was it like to work with kids?
It was great. I mean, it was funny. It's a simple film in a lot of ways, but the cast, the range in age was really, wide, from little kids on up. And so working with actors at different ages and those kinds of things was interesting. I really enjoyed working with both of those boys. They're the sons of another actor who's pretty well known named Cullen Moss, and he was from our area originally. I think he's based in Charleston, South Carolina, but he's an actor who's just been on a TV series on HBO, and it's his children that were in this. So I think they're both kind of getting into the business, actually.
Yeah, I thought they actually did a very good job. What are you hoping that the people who have seen this film are going to take away from it?
I guess the original motivation was just this idea of first memories, and what I find it intriguing that from the little research I did about this, that a first memory can happen from anywhere to say age 2 to age 5, and what we consider to be our first memory. And so there's a wide range of when it can happen. So I was intrigued by that, and what is it? I think it's funny that we kind of stumble around this earth for a couple of years, and then it's almost like we bump our head or something, and we wake up, and we become aware or more conscious to the world around us. And so that's really what I was intrigued by, is that idea. And so for everyone, it's different, right? I even had an idea that other filmmakers might like to tackle this and like to create their first memory, and they could do it either as an experimental film or narrative or documentary, whatever, however they want to do it. And it seems like that might be a fun project for people to take on.
I have to say, when I looked at the name of the film, I was trying to think about my first memory, because it is so true. You start to think back of, okay, how old was I when I first remember something? Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
I don't. I'm glad to be part of the festival, and I hope everyone just enjoys the rest of the festival.
Well, thank you again. And I'm Diana DeRosa, reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with Vivian Ip, who lives in Los Angeles and is the writer and director of An Island Drifts. Wow, that island really did drift. So I want you to tell me why you decided to do this film.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching the film. I'm a Singaporean writer-director based in Los Angeles. And this film is a combination of my experience growing up and working in Singapore, which some may consider to be a high-pressured environment where it seems that a mistake can derail a life. And I wanted to show it through the eyes of a young boy and a teacher and how their lives intersect and how it can be a cycle of pressure that trickles to the next person in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and that is, it really was kind of sort of scary and unnerving and what have you to see this little boy kind of wandering around. And so, yeah, I can see what you're talking about. And it is a good thing to share. So obviously, when you do a film like this, it takes a long time and there are lots of things you look back on. But I'd like to know a couple of your takeaways, your precious moments.
I think the best thing about filming in my home country was working with the local cast and crew. I think, and everybody coming together in the height of the pandemic to make a passion project happen. This project started as USC MFA thesis project, and when COVID hit, I just thought that it would never come to fruition. But being able to work with talented individuals and professionals on a personal story was very meaningful to me. And being able to work with a talented young actor as well. I think kids they're not really acting, they're just being themselves. And if they can open their hearts and minds to the story and really share some part of themselves, it feels like a privilege because they're really not acting.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, now that's what you took away, but what are you hoping that the people watching your film are going to take away from it?
I hope that they understand that Singapore has other more grounded perspectives, perhaps, than what is shown in the mainstream. I think Singapore is very well known as first world country, very beautiful, very safe. It seems like life is somewhat easier in that sense, but actually there's also a lot of societal pressures that come with it and expectations, whether you're a child or an adult or just trying to fit in. That's not easy. I hope that the audience would just watch it and be able to come away with a better understanding of complex social dynamics that's not commonly seen maybe in Western culture.
That's very interesting. And I'm actually going to ask you another question. So is there a part of this film that relates to you? I mean, do you, as a child, remember some of the difficulties that you went through? And is that part of the reason that you did this?
Yes, and also as an adult, probably more recently as a young adult, entering the workforce and probably realizing that the pressure cooker environment doesn't end. It's always the being able to keep up with everyone else and keep appearances up as well, and being able to be accomplished and a good side of yourself all the time. So I remember that as a kid and much more so as an adult too. But as a kid, the reason why I wanted to tell it from his perspective is because that's when you really are trying your best to fit in, and you don't have perspective of the world yet, and even just the smallest gossip about you still affects you pretty deeply. As an adult, I think it's more of people's criticisms and whatnot that really stays with you. But as a kid, that you just have no understanding of that. Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful what you've just said. And I've got to tell you, you have really done an excellent job with this film. You should be very, very proud. So do you have any last words you'd like to say before we sign off?
Thank you everyone for watching, and hope that you watch my next film. It's also entering to the festival circuit. You can follow me on Instagram at Vivian __. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, thank you again. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Andrew Huggins, who lives in Harrisburg, North Carolina, and is the everything person of this film. He's the editor, the director, the cinematographer, and the writer of Cabarrus. So great job. And the fact that you did it all pretty much really speaks to volumes for what you've done. So tell me why you decided to do this film.
Yeah, this film was, I think the initial idea was came to me because two of my very good friends from like childhood, one of them from when I was really young and one when I was in high school, in the last few years have both overdosed on heroin. So I just wanted to make something that touched on that issue of addiction and the idea that you know, it's really it's hard to rank addictions, but it's kind of the worst of all of that stuff. Heroin, and then nowadays a lot of times it being laced with fentanyl, and it's so deadly. And these guys that I knew that were friends of mine growing up just happened to be two of the most vibrant, incredible, just like personalities, just fun people. And so it can happen to absolutely anybody. And we assembled a small crew and a dream cast for me of the actors that jumped in on it and said they wanted to do it. And we filmed it in one day last December. And it was very somber on set. It was dealing with cancer and heroin addiction and murder and all these things. But I had just the perfect group of people, to help me and support me and getting it done. And I think, we're all proud of how it turned out.
Yeah, I think you did a very good job, and it was kind of a learning experience for me since I have no clue about drugs. And but I know the fatality rate is terrible, and obviously you did a very good job of sharing that part. Now I know that even though this was done in one day, the production part of it takes a lot more time. So when you think back, what are some of those stirring moments, the moments that you really stick with you?
Yeah, it's it's interesting on this film. I was really close to the script, in terms of it kind of coming from like more personal place, I guess, of like, well, this is heavy stuff that I've had a little bit of ties to just with those two friends. And so I said, well, I wrote it and I edited it and revised it a bunch and finally liked where it was. I said, well, I'm going to direct it. It's my film. A lot of things I do nowadays are not my own things. I'll shoot things for other people or edit things, sometimes write things, sometimes direct things for other people, but this was my thing. So when it came time to, make it, I said, well, I'm going to shoot it too. The last 3 years or so, I've started doing a lot more of the cinematography side of production. And then, I've never not edited one of my own short films. So doing all that presented some challenges. The tricky thing, because I've done the DP thing along with directing quite a few times now, and there is a challenge where I need to be there for the actors 100% of the time. My name's listed as director, but then also I'm over there and I'm holding the camera and I'm thinking of lighting and thinking of, composition and all these other things. So I had the perfect cast to support me in doing that, where I was shooting, but they were just asking the best questions and supporting me and also being there for them to create a tone, because this one's really a lot about getting a specific tone right. But the challenges are we had a pretty easy shoot. There wasn't anything super challenging. The beginning of the film is the main character played by Russ Bryan in like a junkyard, and he's like wandering around by the train tracks, and that was probably my favorite like production anecdote would be getting that shot, because he walks, we shot in the junkyard for the beginning of the film, and then a train passed, and this was like 5 minutes from my house, just happened to be this amazing location. So, oh man, we missed the train. And, you know, we were kind of still just standing there and talking. And I heard another one coming, and the train blared. And I said, okay, this is amazing. Like, we got to get it. And Russ and I ran over this hill and ran across the tracks, and just very, you know, run and gun, almost documentary style. He, you know, said, I'm gonna go over there, you know, and then you're walking towards me, and we got it with that motion of the train. And so that was probably my favorite part of, you know, because you just don't plan. I didn't even plan for a train at all. So, you know, but that, you know, and the rest of the shoot was just, it was a heavy tone on set, but we oddly enough had a great time making it, you know.
Yeah, very good. Well, you've shared a lot, so thank you very much for all of that, because it does help you better understand how things are done from all perspectives. Well, I want to thank you for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, I don't think so. I thank everyone for watching the film, and for Tryon for supporting me all these years, and again with this film this year. And thank you for doing this.
Well, you're most welcome. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Ava Bounds, who lives in Leeds, England, and was the director of the student film Dying to Meet You. Great job, Ava. I really love the film. Why did you decide to take this on?
Well, my dad actually wrote the script, so it's kind of like a collaboration there. He wrote a one-man play back in many years ago about the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he really wanted it to bring it to everyone around the world. So he kind of confided with me. We collaborated to kind of form it into a script, a screenplay. And then so yeah, it's basically him and his kind of need to tell the story that inspired me and like fueled me to make this film. But yes, then I directed it, and then now we're kind of sharing the story of Bill Wilson around the world. Yeah.
That's great. You've got to have a lot of good memories from pulling it all together and creating this film. So what are some of those memories?
Oh, what are some of those memories? I think just being with a crew of like incredible people. There was I don't know how many were on that. One day there was like, we were in a courthouse and there was about 30 other people, and I've never worked with that many people in my life. It was quite scary. But they were amazing, and they're really good at what they do. And they made it look beautiful, they made it sound beautiful, and yeah, just kind of collaborating with all these really good filmmakers who love to make films was just probably the highlight of it.
Well, the part I really liked the best is when at the end it said that it was actually a true story. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So it came, the whole life story of Bill Wilson. Of course, he made Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's helped like millions of alcoholics from when he made it, back about 50 odd years ago. So yeah, it's a completely true story. We tried to create, keep it as accurate as possible. Just spreading the word of him, and what he did was so incredible. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It was a great way to portray it, you know, for you to kind of get into a film and then to discover that this is actually how it happened. So I want to thank you very much for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
I just want to say thank you for helping us kind of share the story, because I don't think many people realize that the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous was this man who was lost. He wasn't a doctor, he was just an old stockbroker. And so yeah, thank you to Tryon for helping me share his story, his incredible story with everyone.
And I think a lot of people are going to take away and remember this story, so well done. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with Claudia Noble Aref, who lives in South Africa and is the producer of the short animation film Fesito Goes to Market. And what a market it was. Well, I really loved your film, and I want to know why you decided to make it.
Diana, a Fesito is part of an anthology of short stories that I found in a book called Nelson Mandela's Favorite African Folktales. So these are not folktales that were in a book. They were selected by Nelson Mandela himself, and he is a hero to South Africans. And as a result, I wanted to take his stories and take the written word and put it into magical moving animation so that children could cherish it for generations to come. And the stories that Nelson put into the book were stories that were told to him as a boy, as he grew up in the village of Kunu, by his mother and the elders of the village. And he himself says in the book that he learned so many good lessons from these stories. And it is these stories that shaped him into the hero of our times. So I wanted children to learn about stories, to learn a moral lesson from these stories. And that is why I chose to make them. And especially Fesito. There are 32 stories in the book, but I only got funding for 6 of them. So I had to select them very carefully. And I selected Fesito in particular because it deals with bullying that children have to deal with all the time, and also teaches them that from kindness, rewards are reaped.
Yes, absolutely. I really enjoyed that. I love the fact that it's good for kids, but it's also good for adults because it's just fun to watch. So I know when you do these films, it takes a long time, especially the animation. But there's always so many things that you remember during that time. So I'd love to know some of your takeaways.
I think the main thing I took away was that perseverance triumphs. You know, it took me 7 years to get the funding for the project. And we battled with the animation with a lot of challenges, especially here in South Africa, because we don't have a lot of experienced animation companies. The ones we do have are way too expensive and we cannot afford them. So we worked with students and new graduates, and they really had a huge learning curve. Some of them had not even heard about Boom Boom. So there was a lot of skills development that had to take place. And I think my biggest lesson was to learn patience and persistence. And at the end, you will triumph, because here's my film in a film festival in North Carolina. Oh my God.
I totally agree. And I have to ask you, I mean, I read you added your bio to my sign-in sheet, and what a bio it is. I really would like you to talk a little bit about yourself and what you've done in your career.
Well, here's the strange thing. I wanted to be an actress since I was a little girl, but my dad thought that it wasn't a very stable career, and so he wanted me to get an education. So I went off and got a law degree instead. And I practiced law for so many years. And on the side, I did a little bit of acting here and there. I got a little part. But I never really devoted all my time to it because I became so busy on the legal side. And then I turned 40 and I thought, oh my gosh, where's my life gone to? Hopped on a plane, flew forward, had a drama course with Margie Haber. She always boasts that she trained The Rock. So it was great for us to have some acting lessons from her. But, you know, being there, I realized, gosh, I'm really too old for this. This boat has sailed. And I went back home and I then started my own production company. That was really just to get my production company started in 2009. And then I started looking for material. And the very first short film I did won a number of awards, and I couldn't even believe it. And then from there, it just went on to doing made-for-TV movies for our local South African Broadcasting Corporation, to doing feature films. And, you know, now we're busy with one feature film. We might have a co-production with the Netherlands, which I'm kind of excited about, and that might happen towards the end of the year, next year. And I still practice law. So this is like my side hobby. And the legal career, you know, it pays the bills because, as you know, with independent filmmakers, it's very difficult for us. We don't really make much money from film, but it's our passion. That's why
we all have our passion. I mean, I just happen to like to interview people, so that's my passion, but I have a full-time job too. So I want to thank you for chatting with me, and really, what a wonderful film. And I would love to see some of the others because I'm sure they're just as good. So I want to thank you again. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Well, I'd like to say that Nelson Mandela said that it is his wish that the voice of the African storyteller will never die, and that all the children of the world will experience the wonder. So this is my mission, to get my films watched by as many children all across the globe. And to this end, we go to the schools and we're showing the screening the films at the schools. And I'm also going to have them made available online for anyone to download anywhere from our website, Noble Pictures, after the festival.
Well, keep up the good work. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Thank you so much, Diana.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Shenglu Zhang, who lives in Los Angeles and is the writer, director, and producer of the short animated film Have a Good Night.
Yay.
That's kind of the, when I think of that, I think, oh yeah, that was a great film for that. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to do this film.
So yeah, about this short animation and live action hybrid film, Have a Good Night. It's actually my first time doing such a hybrid thing. The story, actually, there's a line from the grandpa in the film that like, don't show up on the local news and girls should protect themselves. That's exactly the words my beloved grandpa told me once at a family dinner. And actually, at the moment, I was shocked by his words because I immediately realized that it's like a victim blaming mindset. And I felt like I knew like well enough to not thinking like that way. But my personal experience I had at like 2019 back in a film festival held in France, I actually, the first part of the story is actually true. So it really happened when I was at that film festival. So at that time, I was just like the protagonist in the film. I was walking along on the streets late at night, and after like a screening, and I realized someone was following me, and I was like extremely unsafe. So I felt like that person behind me might stalking me.
And
imagination stuff are real happens in my mind by the time. So yeah.
but so many times it's not, we get worried about things, but we end up, everything's okay.
Yes.
All right. So, well, that's kind of good that it's partly your story. So, it takes a long time to do these films. You think you're going to go quickly, but it doesn't happen. And there's a lot of hours you put into it. But there have to be a number of things that you think about when you look into the process. So what are some of your takeaways?
Because it's my first time doing this live action animation hybrid stuff, we actually shoot the live action like on a green screen stage for several days and then do the fully live action ending part shooting. It's actually my first time being a director on live action sets. I actually do some PA job before, but being a director, that's my first time, and all my crew members support me so well. They all know that I'm the first time being on set as a director, and I really want to thank my co-director. She did a lot of live action production stuff, and Lisa Lee, she's actually now back in China, and also my DP Zhu, they helped me a lot, and all other fellow crew members. Yeah.
You know what I really liked was, even though it was animated, it looked almost real, the person. So your animation was, closer to the real thing. And was that on purpose?
Yes. We tried a lot of different concept arts and background design, just try to merge the main character, who is a live action actor. So we would try to let the real character fit in the animation background. And we tried different like visual development stuff, and also put a lot of different like filters or different stylized the main character, the live action character a little bit, and also want to match the final like live action ending stuff. So yeah, we do take a lot of different we just try a lot of different kind of art style and finally go with what we have now.
It was very good. I really enjoyed it. Now, for the people that watch this animated film, what are you hoping that they take away?
I hope that they get the whole story, because sometimes I feel like some of my audience don't realize that it's actually a relief for women or for most of the female characters, seeing that the ending parts, the stalker is actually not a stalker, is another woman just want to check in this hotel. So yeah, I hope everybody can get that ending and can. I hope people are laughing at the graveyard stuff. I feel like that's pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you did a great job. Do you have any last words before we sign off?
Oh, I just want to thank you and really glad that you guys include my film. Have a good night in this film festival. And also, yeah, I'm working on my thesis film currently. It's also gonna be live action and animation hybrid kind of stuff. So yeah, hopefully maybe we can see tomorrow, see my film and see you guys next year in the film festival as well.
Well, fabulous. And thank you again. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with Sonia Machado Hines, who lives in California and is the writer and director of the documentary HIPLET. Way to go, way to go. I'm a lover of dance, so I really enjoyed watching this movie. So I want to know why you decided to do it.
It's very interesting. My attorney and I were driving from Beverly Hills, California into Hollywood, and we were just chatting it up. She goes, "Oh my God, you have to see these ballerinas." And she opens up her phone and she's driving and I'm watching the video and I'm like, "Oh, I have to meet them." And within a week, I was in Chicago. I managed to get a hold of the founder, make an appointment, get a day at the school, and started the path.
Well, I got to tell you, I am so glad you did that because I love this. What a great combination and what a great, wonderful thing for them. So now when you look back at the documentary and how long it took and all the different intricacies, what are some of your takeaways?
Well, these girls are fantastic, but they're real people. And the cost of this art form is incredibly expensive for inner city young adults and their families. So my takeaway is, how can I give back and keep this art form, one, alive, and to contribute to its expansion for the work that Homer Hans Bryant, its founder and creative life force, has envisioned. It's his legacy, and I think it's just so spectacular that whatever I can do to be that vehicle is completely my intention.
So is that also what you're hoping that the people will take away from it?
Absolutely. So much so that we're launching a GoFundMe for the school. I want them to have a new building. I want them to have no needs that aren't met. And I want them to just reach out into the community and demonstrate this art form and the aesthetic so that everyone can enjoy it.
Well, I think that's fabulous. And you, I know, are not a dancer, so I'm intrigued that this really motivated you. Can we talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, I think for me, the motivation is the culture. We have African-American girls or brown-skinned girls and boys now as well that are, using two pennies and rubbing them together to do hip hop on point. And some can afford it, some can't. And Homer's story, his own story, he couldn't afford to learn ballet, and a neighbor paid for his original classes. So for me, this is just so inspiring to take this beauty and somehow sticky tape it together so that it can be enjoyed, be a form of discipline and hope and advancement and future and creativity. There was just no reason not to do, because it's so much good. Sure, it was hard. It took me 4 years to do the documentary. I followed them to France and Paris Fashion Week, and I'm still collecting footage because I've decided to do another piece of work. And I must say, I feel good because it's a form of giving back to something so gorgeous. I'm inspired and, blown away every time I see them perform. They're performing this weekend in Chicago at the Logan Center live. And I'm just bummed I can't be there. So,
Yeah, I commend you. I really do. I mean, I've been a lover of dance for as long as I can remember. And to have, others have an opportunity to sort of reach their dreams with something like that, I really applaud you for what you're doing. So I want to thank you for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
please support HIPLET ballerinas at the Chicago Multicultural Dance Center, and please watch our film.
Fabulous. And if they want to find you on a website, where can they go?
They can go to Black Plus Plus, spelled out BLACKPLUS.net, or Black Plus Plus on Instagram. Easiest way to reach me.
Perfect. Well, I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Pleasure.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Adams Wood, who is in Asheville, North Carolina, and is the director, cinematographer, and editor of the short documentary, Hunger is Real. And that is sad but true, but this is such a wonderful film and so many wonderful people. So tell me why you decided to do this film.
Thanks so much. I had worked with MINA Food Bank for a few years on some different projects, all of which were much more like specific in their purpose. And they asked me if I wanted to do something more of a documentary, and I just jumped at the chance. I thought it was a great idea, and they kind of gave me free range, and I just went with it.
Great. Well, I know that it always takes a bit of a time to get this all together and pull together, and so many things happen along the way, but I'd love to hear about some of your takeaways, some of those fond memories.
Yeah, I think that just meeting all the sort of amazing volunteers as well as the clients, that was kind of the most gratifying thing to me, and just learning how this service is going on all over the place. And a lot of times it's a little bit under the radar, and each place where people are distributing food kind of has their own culture and flavor, but they're doing just really important work.
Actually, I thought that was interesting to watch how they all did it a little differently. Some of them actually delivered stuff, and some it was certain days. Now, what about the people watching it? What do you want them to take away from this film?
I think I would, what came across to me, and I hope other people just get an appreciation of just how all the complex speed bumps that people come across in their lives contribute and relate to this issue of food insecurity, how addressing this one need, it touches all other areas of somebody's life, and just how basic this is.
Yeah, what I found interesting was the explanation of, some of these people could pay their rent and could pay other things, but this made a difference to them. And did you find that also kind of a surprise when you did it, or were you already aware of that?
I was a little bit aware of that. I had been working on these issues long enough so that I understood that, but I do absolutely. I think that, a lot of people have in their heads a certain picture of somebody that needs help with accessing food. And sometimes that's right, but it's something that all different types of people can struggle with, and sometimes need a little help.
Absolutely. And that's what I became aware of. I mean, the different types of people that are out there and the type of help they need, and how much food becomes a part of that, because that's probably the first thing they let go. So I want to thank you for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Just thanks so much for this interview. Thanks for watching the film, and thanks to the Tryon International Film Festival.
Yes, and thank you for doing the film. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Patricia Bradley, who lives in Hoopers Creek, North Carolina, and is the filmmaker of the film Meet Mr. Tiny of Hoopers Creek. Really cool film, but I have to admit, I thought I was going to see a midget. Definitely not a midget.
Mr. Teeny.
And clearly you're not afraid of spiders. So tell me why you decided to do this film.
Well, actually, Mr. Teeny, the spider, he's the one who got my attention. So it was a spontaneous meeting. And once I opened my mailbox and I saw something scurry across, and I thought, what is that? And I had my phone and I took a little bit of video of him and then blew it up and looked at it and I go, oh my God, what is this? And his coloring, his green fangs. And I thought, wow, amazing. I was so excited, such a natural joy of this little personality. And that's what got that going in that block in my brain that I had to know more. He chose me to do a documentary short, animation short about him at that moment.
Yeah, Mr. Teeny, Mr. Tiny.
Yeah, Mr. Teeny, he is very tiny.
Yeah. No, but I mean, he is really unique and so different. When you think about all the time you spent with Mr. Teeny, what are some of your takeaways?
Primarily is that the moment of realizing how much is around us that we can't really see, and we're too rushed to see, to slow down and look and be still and to take a break. As filmmakers, creatives, we are always sitting in front of the screen and we're always making and we're concentrating. But this is a break to get out of that space. And it's so centering. And the takeaway from me is that this is very personal. There's no audience I'm looking at, or producer or client. This was my journey as an artist to learn more and to craft story around him.
Well, I got to tell you, the drawing, amazing. And I know that you did that, but you got it so perfect. How long have you been doing that?
I've been an artist all my life. I've been a designer 30 plus years, and I've been storytelling for many, many years. And that's the wonderful thing about film, because if you are a creative, you have this vehicle to funnel everything into and layer all that talent, all those passions, obsessions. and that's the joy I have in filmmaking, is getting all those layers together and observing the power of observation.
You did a really wonderful job. I enjoyed it. I was like, oh my God, this is a scary spider, but you made it so wonderful. So I want to thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Thank you. Thank you. And thank everybody who's given me some wonderful feedback, and to remember to use your power of observation and slow down and center and take a break, because we all need it. And the joy of connecting your joy with your passion and your craft is paramount. Thank you so much, Diana.
You're welcome. And you are so right. We need to slow down. And I'm Diana DeRosa, reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with Masha Bordowski, who lives in New York, is the director and screenwriter of the short dramatic film, MINA. Really great film. I really enjoyed watching that film. So I want to know a little bit more about why you decided to do it.
So yeah, I think the most important question is why did I decide to do it, and why now? Well, first of all, because it's my story. When I was 15, I was diagnosed with anorexia and I had to recover from it. And it took a while, but during the time of my recovery, I got to rediscover myself. And when I got to college in New York, I started noticing that a lot of people actually struggle with eating disorders, and a lot of them struggle in silence. And I wanted to create a movie that will let those people know that they're not alone in this battle, and that it's beatable, and that it's doable to recover and rediscover yourself again.
I know that you said that it took a long time to go through, getting back to being a loving person of your body and everything else, but what were there some defining moments that helped you get there?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely I had an inner desire to find my voice again, to be myself, and I realized that life can only be beautiful when you're yourself and when you accept yourself, and when you live in the here and now instead of going to the past or thinking about the future. So during the time of my recovery, I suddenly had a click that I don't want to suffer anymore, and actually I deserve to be happy. And yeah, that was the moment when I was like, I need to get better. I need to get back to my life.
Great. Well, I really enjoyed the part where you were in this film and you actually spoke to your father. And I'd like to know what your reasons, there's got to be more to that than meets the eye. So I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, so I haven't been talking to my dad for a few years now. My parents have been divorced since I was a little girl, and my dad and I we were never close. And during my time in therapy, it was important for me to connect with both parents. And even though we don't talk with my dad, for me, it was very important to express how I feel and share my story. And so I decided to write a poem about what I went through and include it in the end of the movie, to kind of let the audience know that it is a true story and this stuff happens and we didn't make it up. And again, there's a way out of there. And maybe one day my dad will watch the movie and will know the story. I'm not really sure where he is right now or what he's doing, but I mean, I hope he's well. But I just wanted to let him know that I'm well and that I survived. And I made a short film, which is actually a teaser for a TV show, which we hope will launch soon because I wrote a script for a TV show. So now we're looking for someone to admit it and move on with a project.
Well, good. The truth will set you free. So I want to thank you for chatting with me today. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
I just wanted to say, I hope that the festival goes well. I'm really sad that I'm not going to be there in person, but my MINA team is going to be there. They're so looking forward to it. And they promised me to send all the videos and pictures. And I'm wishing luck to all the participants as well. And just wanted to thank you and wish you a good day.
Well, good luck with continuing this project and a series of movies or films. And I am Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Sydney Sagehorn, who lives in Los Angeles, California, and is the writer and director of the student film Mystique No.4. So welcome. Nice job with this film. Why did you decide to take this on?
So I put together this film as my senior thesis project at Southern Methodist University, where I graduated from this May. And this was part of a class called Production 3, which is kind of the highest level production class. And through this class, you kind of choose an area of filmmaking that you want to specialize in. And so for me, I decided to take on writing and directing. And this was a film that I had sort of had the idea in my head for a couple months beforehand, but didn't necessarily have the motivation to actually put it on paper until I started the production process. But it was a wonderful opportunity to work with people in my department that I hadn't gotten to work with before and take some risks with my filmmaking that I also hadn't been able to do before. And I think it worked out very well as a result.
Well, you did a wonderful job, and I'm sure there are things that you remember during that long time that you did this film and pulled it all together. So tell me some of the memories that you have.
Sure, yeah. This film came together very quickly, just because of the shortened schedule that you have. You have to get the whole film done within a semester. And there's only so many weekends that you can film, and it just so worked out that we had to film in the first weekend. And we ended up filming this at the end of February of this year, and we were in Dallas, but it was very unseasonably cold. And the week leading up to the production, we had this huge ice storm.
Oh, gosh.
And it was horrible because a lot of the last minute things that we had to put together suddenly weren't able to happen. And so we're kind of scrambling at the end to get some props and some costumes, but it all ended up coming together. We had an amazing time. We shot at some beautiful locations. We were able to film at this creek that doesn't even look like Texas, I don't think, it doesn't look like you're in the middle of Dallas, but you are. And it was a great time to work with a lot of new equipment, a lot of wonderful professional people, and I had the time of my life filming it.
Well, great. So I thought there were a lot of lessons to be learned from that film. What are you hoping that the people who watch it take away?
Yeah, so I think the central lesson of this film deals with the idea of art and how we value art, and whether we value art because of who created it or because of, the story of its creation. And that's kind of the central plot of the movie, deals with people feuding over this esteemed art piece. But they're all after it for the wrong reasons. And I think the big takeaway I want people to have from this film is that art derives its value in a very personal manner, and not because of any sort of name that's attached to it or any other measure of kind of worldly success.
Yeah, I thought that was a great angle that you did that, and a good lesson for all of us to learn, because the ending was great.
Thank you.
I want to thank you very much for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Yeah, I took a lot of risks with this movie, sort of personally. I like to do a lot of comedy writing, and doing something that wasn't just a straight up comedy for me was a little challenging, because I felt like I had to be, earnest and insightful about things in a way that you don't always have to do with something that's kind of a comedy. But like I said, I took a couple risks. I did some new things with this film, and I think it paid off in the end. And so I think it's worth it to take those risks.
I totally agree, and well done. And I'm Diana DeRosa, reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with John Gardner, who lives in South Carolina and is the creator of the short documentary ProDogTV. And that is definitely ProDog, great film. So tell me why you decided to create that.
I would say it was a passion project. It was something that really meant a lot to me. I got to see a lot of things on the front seat or front row. So it was a passion project, most definitely.
Yeah, because you were a cop, right?
Yeah, I was a police officer for 25 years and retired, and loved every minute of it, most every minute of it.
Especially the one times with the dogs, right?
Yeah, they paid me to play with dogs every day. So what kind of job is that?
All right, so putting together this film is never a short thing. It takes time, but there are always things that stay with you. So what are some of those takeaways that you have?
Wow. I would say we filmed 4 different episodes, and the one that you'll see will be the pilot episode. But another episode that we filmed was about an 8-year-old girl who helped train a dog for another 8-year-old handicapped girl.
Wow.
And it was a powerful story, and very moving, and I really enjoyed meeting them and sharing some time with them.
I think that's the beauty of doing something like that, right? You get a chance to meet a lot of people you would have never met.
Exactly. And I've met some incredible heroes, men and women who do search and rescue that they actually pay a lot of money personally and very invested in it to do it for free.
Wow, that's really
They put
nice. So tell me what you are hoping that people that watch this film take away from it.
Inspiration. We really want to inspire others to either do something similar and working with a professional dog, or even an athlete working a professional dog in sports, but just taking that next step and just getting the joy out of working these incredible animals.
I totally support that. So I want to thank you for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, we hope that our mission comes across as they learn more about it, that they get involved in it or support it. It's all in their communities right there with them. And there's so many opportunities out there. We hope they take advantage of it.
I totally agree with that. And safety and helping find, like you've done in your movie. So great job. And I am Diana DeRosa, reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Clay Martin, who lives in Asheville, North Carolina, and is the director of the student film Serves. I have to tell you, when I saw the word Serves, I had no idea what I was going to see, but it was a wonderful film, and you did a great job. Why did you decide? I know you're a teacher, and these were students and all of that. So why did you decide to do this film?
Okay, well, this film actually has a lot of my own little childhood in it. I had a lot of those little sports embarrassing moments. And so it was a little bit of a way of relating to kids who go through that too, and, that they're not the end of the world. So that's really where that idea came from for Serves. Mm-hmm.
All right, if you could talk a little bit about the fact that you are a teacher and that you've been doing this for a few years, I think we'd all like to know a little bit about that part of your life.
Sure. Well, I'm an art teacher in Weaverville, North Carolina, for the little guys at the primary and elementary school. And in 2014, the idea came around that we don't really have drama offered at our school. So I offered to do a club, and I had made a couple little short films. So I thought, why don't I just tell my own stories with these guys? And I get to be creative and do that and sort of build my filmmaking craft, and they get to learn about acting and filmmaking at the same time.
I wish I had that, when I was young. It would have been so much fun to be able to do that. The thing that amazed me, though, is how do you do the big and the little? I mean, I'm not a filmmaker, so that part, that you could just shrink and blow up was kind of amazing to me. What is that technique?
Well, it's I use a lot of green screen, and the green screen, once you get them cropped out from the background, you can make them as small or big on your computer as you want to. So I did learn a lot about it in the process, and this was a good year for a movie with a lot of that, because we had changing COVID protocols last year. Who was allowed to be, so we had to be very distanced or masked, and so we spent a lot of time outside with green screens outside blowing in the wind. A lot of challenges this time. So,
well, you did a wonderful job. For the people watching this film, what are you hoping they take away?
I love the idea of seeing how kids can be creative, and I like the idea of us taking more challenges on in our school system, just to bring more creative ideas into it, and let kids know they can carry those ideas into their adulthood. So
I think we all have that passion of thinking, oh, we'd like to, be part of a film or what have you. So to allow them to do it at such a young age is great. And I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
I just, I'm glad I'm happy that we got into the festival, and my kids are tickled that they got into the festival. So thank you guys so much. Mm-hmm.
Well, I had to laugh the whole time. I was really enjoying it. It was so much fun. And I'm Diana DeRosa, reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Samuel Reed, who lives in Columbia, South Carolina, and is the writer, producer, and director of the short dramatic film, The Edge of Water. And this was truly a family affair. Daughters, wife, and you back there in the camera and everything else. So tell me why you decided to do this film.
So I don't know that I necessarily know where inspiration comes from. But I did make this film during the pandemic. And obviously resources were somewhat limited during that time. And we had also just moved from Los Angeles, where I was living for most of my career, back to South Carolina. And so we were actually living at the beach at that time. And so I was just trying to think of smaller projects that I could potentially put together. And I had a notion that I wanted to make a film with a cell phone. And I thought that this might be a good kind of practice for that. And then when I started thinking about the type of story that I might be able to tell, and you just kind of keeping it small, I started writing it for my family. And then the next thing I know, I've got this little creepy kind of dramatic thriller, on my hands that I'm incorporating my family into. So yeah, I think that it just kind of came about, this desire to make a film, and then the elements that I had at my disposal at that time to be able to do so.
Perfect. So, I'm sure it takes time and took you time to go through it, but there must be some moments that stand out for you. What are some of those moments?
Honestly, the whole shooting process with my family, it was a delight and also difficult. Working with children obviously can be trouble, but my own children at that, it was very windy that day and actually fairly cold on the beach. And my wife is not used to being, on set, or she's not in the film world at all. She lets me do my thing, and she does her thing. And so, she's not used to some of the starting and stopping, or, when you're really in the moment, just needing to capture things right then. And so it was funny because while I remember it very fondly, and what we captured, I think, is very lovely, especially some of the stuff I got with my daughters. And it was trying on set, so I will always remember that experience for kind of the fun and also the difficulty that we had together.
Relatives, anybody that's close to you, it's always harder. But I want to hear you talk about the symbolism of that shell to your daughter. What, in your mind, what were you trying to represent?
Yeah, so I think for me, it had a lot of meanings. I tried to pack this little film in with a lot of different types of meanings so that audiences could really pull from it what they related to. And so the shell for me, I think initially it is something that reminds her of her father. Maybe picking shells up off the beach is something that they did as a family, or it's just very lovely, and maybe she thinks that he would have an appreciation for it. Just something that kind of takes her to a moment with him in a very emotional kind of way. And so that was kind of the device that I used, but also kind of what it meant. But then when it gets to the scarier stuff and within the film, I think that it's very much based on her emotions and the turmoil she's feeling as someone who's lost somebody, and the confusion that she feels not knowing how to express this stuff. And so while the shell brings this out in her because it is such a core memory of her father. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I tried to incorporate that all together and use a little symbolism within the shell.
That's great, because I really do like to hear what, because we all look at things very differently. So it's nice to hear what what you were trying to portray or mean or what have you. So excellent. Well, I want to thank you very much for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, just that it's a real honor to be able to represent my film at Tryon. I've heard a lot of great things about it, and I actually went to school in Spartanburg, not too far away. So have some good, fond memories of Tryon myself. So it's going to be fun to come back and see everybody. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the film.
Yeah, great cinematography. Well done. And congratulations. And I'm Diana DeRosa, reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with John Sexton, who lives in Monroe, North Carolina, and is the writer and director of the short dramatic film, The Fall from Grace. Well, that was really a cute film. Why did you decide to do that film?
Well, I always like to try a little different things with my short films, and I had the story for a long, long time, and I wanted to make a simplistic, touching short film, character driven, with as little dialogue as possible, and let the actors go with it.
Well, you succeeded. It was not a lot of words, but really good ending there. So when you think back, I don't care if it's short or not, it still takes a lot of time and a lot goes into it. And there's always things that remain with you. So what are some of your takeaways?
Well, I think the old adage of working with children and animals is true. It can be real difficult. In this instance, it was both. However, our child actor was a first-time actor and did a real good job. And our animal actor was a first-time actor, and he did a good job, but it was just hilarious. A lot of the, if I could do some of the outtakes with the horse, I don't know that the actress would find it funny, but he walked all over her a lot of times because he was such a big animal, and she's a very small lady, and leading him was difficult. And having our child star sit on the front porch the whole time and asking an 8-year-old not to fidget or move and just stay there, that was probably the biggest thing. But one thing I did decide was I didn't want to over direct a piece like this. I wanted this piece to drive itself, and that's what I tried.
Yeah, well, that's so true. You know, I'm a horse person, so I was fascinated by the horse part of it. And I was wondering a bit more, where did you get that horse from?
You know what? The story really calls for a mule. Had such great difficulty finding a mule. Well, I finally found one, and closer to production, the mule became pregnant and they did not want to transport the mule. So I said, oh, great, now I'm without a mule. So at the last minute, I found a young lady, college girl who has donkeys and horses. So she brought one donkey and one horse, and I looked at them and I thought, you know, we could do this with the horse. So that's what we did. And luckily, she and her grandfather came along to be the wranglers, and it worked out really, really well.
It did. It was really interesting how you put this all together. So now the people that have seen your film, what are you hoping that they take away?
I hope that they take away from the film that the simplicity of everyday life, no matter what year it's happening, can be extremely happy, extremely sad. It can be whatever, but and you can take an everyday scene just from any period and add a couple of elements and make a really, really good little story.
Yeah, really good. And I love the way that you twisted that there. I mean, I was totally surprised about the ending. So a nice job. Well, I want to thank you very much for joining me this morning. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, I hope everyone enjoyed the film. I love reality-based stories. This is based on a true story from my family, and I wanted to make it into a short film.
Well, I have to hear this true story from your family. Tell me more.
My dad had a bout of polio when he was about 8 years old, and his family split up at the same time, and it was a large family, so all the children were farmed out to relatives. So my dad ended up at his grandparents' farm, who were poor sharecroppers. Having polio, grandma and granddad would go to the field and work the fields every day. Well, there was no real way to take care of him. So what they decided to do was grandpa nailed his overalls to the porch every day, and grandma left him food and water. She would come back at lunchtime to water the horse and check on him, then go back to the field and then come back in the evening. So he was nailed to the porch. So he said, one day grandma came back and said, the horse just instinctively turned to him when he spoke to the horse, the rear of the horse facing grandma, and something startled the horse. He kicked grandma, and he had to watch her go headfirst into the well and drown. And there was nothing he could do. All he could do, ring the bell for grandpa. That's all he could do.
So that really did happen?
Yeah, it's a true story. It happened to my father.
Oh my gosh, that's fabulous. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much. I'm so glad you shared that story. Well done. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Chan Sang Hong, who lives in Hong Kong and is the filmmaker, director, and animator of the short animation, The Giant with a House Too. So, Hong, that was a wonderful, wonderful animation. I want you to tell us why you tried to, why you decided to do that film.
Yeah, this is, I want to say that this is a story about a giant and little girl traveling in the wastelands. Yeah, this is in the future. Yeah, they're finding a good place to live. Yeah, and this the giant with how to. This time they're talking about they found a very beautiful city. Yeah, and has something happened in the city anyway. Yeah, amazing.
But, and you just love the idea because you had already done Giant with a House 1, so this was just an extension of that, right?
Yeah. In the first one, I'm talking about the beginning, why they start to traveling around the world. Yeah.
Great. All right, so it always takes a long time, especially with animation. What are some of the things that you remember that stand out for you? What are some of your takeaways?
Yeah. In this time, actually, I want to talking about something very important. Is the life actually is very simple. Yeah. Especially, but the point is, we all know that when we are the children, but we always forget this when we go up. Yeah. I want to talking about this. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you work with a lot of different people, and did you meet some new people when you put together this part 2?
Actually, we are using the same people, especially the music, the composer are using the same one, the Wang Jinwei. Yeah.
Great.
This same person. He helped me do all the music in the animation. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is wonderful. So now, with the people that are watching the film, who have watched the film, what are you hoping that they remember from it?
I just want they to thinking about why are doing that, why the little girl doing this thing in the movie, to think about that, why the giant will doing another thing. Actually, this film is found that there is 2 characters, very big difference. This one of them is the big giants, another one is a little girl. Actually, they the view of them actually is totally different. Yeah. So I want people or the audience watching after the film, they will think about why they had the different view in the situation.
Yes. Oh, that's great, because they are so different. The one little tiny thing and the other very big. So that was kind of a cute friendship there. So I want to thank you, Hong, for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, thank you for watching. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with David Ashton, who lives in Richmond, Virginia, and is the writer and director of The Legacy Sessions. Great film, good theme there, and a good lesson to learn. So, David, why did you decide to do these films?
Well, this film was, I guess for me, trying to get back to making a more kind of personal movie. I wanted to tell a story that was sort of a cross-generational story. I think, I found that there are a lot of similarities between our elderly population and our youth population. They're both, kind of groups of people who sort of get pushed to the side, and sort of silenced in a lot of ways. When you're young, it's like, oh, we don't really give you a lot of credit because you're like, oh, you haven't learned, you don't have experience, you don't know anything. When you're old, it's like, oh, you're out of touch, you've kind of lost it, So I find that there are a lot of, in a lot of ways, they're really, similar, and I just thought it'd be really interesting and fun to write a movie that was about, a different, unusual kind of friendship that dealt with people in these age groups.
Actually, I love that concept because I'm very drawn to older people. And so now you were able to see these two different ages doing incredible acting. So that part of it really fascinated me. So when you look back, it always takes a long time to do these films, and, no matter how it is when it's finally here. So what are some of your takeaways?
Ooh, just from the experience of making the film?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I wish I had more time, which is probably what all filmmakers say, because it was, it was so fun, kind of what you just said, working with those two actors and being surprised and really just inspired by kind of their performances and how they really, I don't know, I think they really inspired each other as well.
Yes.
So I think, man, I wish I had more time to do. There were a couple other scenes, couple other, certain days you just want more takes. You want, oh, I wish I had gotten this angle and things like that. But I mean, in terms of the overall experience, I would say it was really fun, and I had a really good team. We filmed primarily in Richmond and Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I just had a really good team of support. I mean, my assistant director, my co-producer Silas, who also acts in the movie. It was kind of a big production for a small movie because there are a lot of locations, a lot of background performers. So it's like one of the days at the school we had, I think, over 60 people in front of the camera. So just the logistics of it all, it was challenging, but also just really fun, and I'm grateful for everyone I worked with. It was really a pleasure to make the movie.
Yeah, and I think you did an amazing job. It really came through, and I just love that there were so many different actors and themes to it. So now that the people have watched the film, what are you hoping that they take away?
I always struggle with that question because I hope that people can watch something, and I don't want to influence the way they feel about it or what they think. But I guess if there is one thing I would say would be to, maybe reach out to someone in your life. It could be a grandparent, it could be a neighbor or a family friend or someone who's older, and it could just be something as simple as a phone call. But I think there's a lot to learn and to gain from our older citizens, and I was fortunate that I was really close with my grandparents. I knew all four of my grandparents and two of my great grandparents into my teenage years.
Wow.
Which I think is really unique. And I don't know. I feel like maybe we don't always, as a society, give them the kind of respect and the voice they deserve. So I would say, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. I think it's just something as small as, taking the time to pick up the phone, call your grandma, call a relative, call a friend, someone who's older, and just talk. I mean, I think it's, I think that's such an important thing. It's those, not pushing them, even though they're not maybe, maybe not in your daily life, but it doesn't mean that they're not important. It doesn't mean that they don't have something to offer.
Right. Well, that's a beautiful answer. And I want to thank you very much for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, I just, I guess I'll just say thank you for watching, whoever, is watching the film, and for watching this interview. And and if you're a filmmaker watching this, I hope, if you have an idea, keep going. I mean, I know for me, going to film festivals, seeing other films, it's always just inspiration to keep creating. It's hard. It's a lot of work. Takes a long time. But I don't know. So if there's anyone watching this, I hope that you're inspired to make that passion project that you really want to make and get it off the ground, because you can do it. You just gotta, keep hacking away at it.
And I can say I was just inspired by this film. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Sean Chisterna, who lives in Toronto, Canada, and was the director of the feature documentary, The Long Rider. Wow, it was a long ride, close to 2 years. But before we actually begin that, I thought your credentials were pretty impressive. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about you.
Me? Okay. Well, I'm a filmmaker from Toronto, as you said. I made a couple movies for Netflix. One's called Kiss and Cry, and one is called Full Out. And then a couple of years ago, I did a movie called From the Vine, starring Joe Pantoliano. He's the Emmy winner from The Sopranos, and I took him to Italy and made a movie called From the Vine. Yeah. So it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, it certainly has. And now the wild ride is with The Long Rider. Why did you decide to do this film?
Well, I wanted to originally make a feature narrative film. So I had some funding to develop a script, and then developed a nice project based on Felipe's book, Long Ride Home. We were just about ready to make that movie come to life. And then the pandemic happened, and I couldn't take a crew across borders. And, that's what this movie warrants. So, when the pandemic happened and we all went into lockdown, Felipe said, well, I have all this footage that I shot on my journey. Maybe we could do something with it. And so that's how the documentary was born, just out of the fact that I love the story so much, and I had this wealth of material to work with. So we just pivoted and did a documentary that will help eventually support the narrative version that we do.
Great. And how much of it was totally filmed by Felipe, or did you do some of the filming?
We did the interviews and some recreation B-roll with the young boy who plays Felipe, just to help tell the story a bit more visually. But for the most part, it's Felipe's diary, basically. It was a one-person crew that traveled all the way from Canada, even farther, even from Alaska down to Ushuaia, Argentina. And he was the solo person responsible for capturing all his own material.
Totally amazing. Well, you did a wonderful job. Now, of course, it's a long trip to edit all this and put it all together. So what are some of your takeaways?
Oh, I loved going through the footage. There was about 500 hours of footage. So to be able to go on this journey with Felipe, but via my, safe and comfortable office here was I think a real treat. But I think there's a simple message in this film about taking that first step. You can't really embark upon a journey of 16,000 miles or 20,000 miles by sitting there. You have to undertake that first step, and I think it's a modern day Odyssey, kind of like the Greek myths of the past. Like, no one ever undertakes a journey like this with such fortitude, and I thought that was a powerful message to portray in this kind of dark time in our shared history.
When you were viewing all of the filming and whatever was there must have been some things that really stood out for you, and to this day you recall. Can you tell me anything there that sort of still lingers with you?
Yeah, I love the fact that Felipe leaves, Canada on day one without anything on his back, sort of thing. He just, the bare necessities that he needs to undertake this journey, and he leaves like a penniless immigrant almost, but with the help of the good people, of the United States and Latin America and South America, who want this young boy to make it back home to his family. I think that's a beautiful message. I think we all think that going on a journey like this might end in death or severe hardship, but it goes to prove that people are good at their core and just want to help their fellow human.
Yeah, I really appreciated that part of the film where so many people along the way, even the ones that protected him, were there to help him. So I want to thank you very much, Sean, for talking with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, like I said, I think this is a wonderful and inspiring film, and it's perfect for such a time where, you know, it's not easy to travel anymore, and we may have lost that human connection. So this is a film that celebrates those human connections.
Well, thanks again. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with Dan Mercer, who lives in Raleigh, North Carolina, and is the director of the short dramatic film, The Mourner. Well, welcome, Dan. So I really enjoyed your film, and I want to know why you decided to do this film.
Yeah, so before in a former life, I was a basketball player, and after college, I had the opportunity to go overseas, and I did a little stint playing some ball out in China. And when I was out there, just like learning about the culture, I had heard that they had these, like, I think they might call them whalers or something, but like basically people who, you know, you can get to come to your funeral and be sad. And so I just kind of thought it would be funny to see what that looked like in like Eastern North Carolina, you know. The genesis of the idea.
Yeah, it was a cute idea. So now that you're looking back, I mean, it always takes a long time to do these films. What are some of your takeaways?
Oh man, I just think that every opportunity to shoot, and you know, whether it's a film or anything, but like especially something where you actually have to work with a crew and really, you know, plan everything out. It's just such a great learning experience. You know, like watching it now, I'm already like, man, I could have done that 30 times better. But I think it would be a bad thing if I didn't feel like that. You know, like the process of making the film should have me, you know, feeling like I'm better at the end than when I started. So I just think the learning experience and the opportunity to always, you know, meet new collaborators. It's such a collaborative art form. Those are two of my big ways.
And for the people watching the film, what are you hoping they learn from it?
I just think, I hope, you know, it's not some huge societal statement. I just hope someone's entertained for 17 minutes, you know, and you know, they get to see you know, we got a lot of North Carolina based actors. We went to a church out in Oxford, North Carolina. So it's, you know, it's very, we feel like it's got a very North Carolina feel. And so I think, you know, if we can just get a few laughs out of someone, you know, that's great. And I appreciate anyone who takes the time to watch it.
That's what's so cool about watching different films, is they all, you know, bring something different. Some are very serious and some are fun. So it's a good crossover.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to thank you for chatting with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Oh, I would just thank, you know, the people who worked on the film with me, the crew and the cast, and you know, and then my parents who really helped me, you know, supported me to make it, have supported, you know, all my dreams when it comes to like art and following that as a career. So yeah, that would be it. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be at the Tryon International Film Festival. It's such a thrill anytime someone watches something I create, whether they like it or not. It's a thrill to have someone, and so I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for sharing it with the people that have watched this film, because it always is wonderful afterwards if you can get a chance to hear a little bit more about it from the people that were involved behind the scenes.
It's very cool.
Yeah, well, thanks again. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I am speaking with Rachel Ara, who lives in Jersey, Channel Islands, and is the maker of the short documentary, The Parable of the Leaf Blower.
Hello.
Hi, how are you today, Rachel? And I want you to tell everybody that's watching us now why you decided to make this film.
Right. It's an interesting one, because actually I'm a visual artist, I'm a sculptor. And the reason it was a commission, it was a very old feminist who was in her 90s who decided to commission a book, and they had artists responding to chapters. And initially I was just going to do a sort of a graphic design or a GIF file for it, but it just developed into a film.
Oh, wow. Well, wonderful job. Very interesting. So you know, when you look back at the time it took you to create this, what are some of the things that you take away from it?
I think for me, the takeaway was actually working in film and how flexible film was, because usually I make large sculptural installations. And because of COVID, I mean, it's hard to show them, it's hard to transport them. And it's just like the portability of film and how you can actually get film out to the world, get your message out to the world through film.
All right, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the film and talk about the steps that you were portraying to people from the beginning when the women were very clean and so on. If you could talk about that a little bit, I think that would help.
I mean, the film was a very simple animation. I'm using simple characters like you see on the toilet sign. But the idea was to, I think, yeah, the idea was sort of comparing sort of more natural methods to sort of the automated sort of leaf blower as a way of looking at life in a more simple way, and that technology, I guess, hasn't exactly resolved all our problems. That looking back to the old ways is sometimes quite good. That was crap what I just said.
No, I thought that was great. Actually, that really did simplify what I wanted you to say, actually. So don't even, but it's true. I mean, that leaf blower, gosh, suddenly it was filling the other one. It's really, really quite interesting. What made you decide that it was a leaf blower that you wanted to demonstrate?
Oh, because I think that's a complete misuse of fossil fuels and technology, and they annoy me so much. Because at the time I was living in London, and we have this courtyard with one tree that drops about 2 leaves a year, and there is this man with a leaf blower who comes and spends half an hour in the courtyard blowing it. And there's so many people working from home, and you could just hear this noise, and it drives us all mad. And I keep thinking, you know, you could go down with a dustpan and brush and clean this up. Why are we doing this?
You know, animation sometimes can be, you know, we think that it can be very easy and quick and stuff, but it takes a long time. So how long did it take you to make this film?
Oh my God, it took me about 3 months because I completely forgotten how to animate, and I wanted it in a particular way, and it was so difficult to get that movement. So I spent months sort of looking at YouTube videos, and it sort of ended up being a bit like stop frame animation because I didn't know all the techniques. But I got what I wanted in the end, but it was a struggle.
I have to believe that because I've seen different animations and every step really takes a long time. Well, Rachel, I want to thank you very much. I know you rushed to make sure you talk to me today. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
All right, it's great to be part of the film festival, and just to anyone, I mean, I made this film sitting on my laptop on the kitchen table. Just go for it.
Well,
you know,
good, yeah.
Especially with the education you get on YouTube, it's fantastic.
I think that's really important to let people know they have to just go for it. If they have something they want to do, then just do it.
I know it's really, really hard sometimes, but just persistence.
All right. Well, thanks again. And I'm Diana DeRose reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with Jeremy Carr, who lives in Matthews, North Carolina, and is one of the writers, producers, and actors of the feature film, The Rush Call. Wow, that was a perfect name. If you know anything about being an actor, that was a perfect name. So why did you decide to do this film?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a film, one of the first scripts I ever wrote, actually. Probably 8 or 9 years ago, I had the concept for it and wrote a 14-page short version of this about 7 years ago. I was loosely based on some real life events. Obviously, it's not truly historical, but more of the sentiment and the expression of some things I was going through in my personal life. About 7 years ago, got the short film script ready to go. But always thought it could be a little longer and add some characters to it. So yeah, 2 years ago, I connected with my friend Jennifer Taylor, who is a wonderful actress, friend, and she co-wrote and co-produced the script and the film, and also plays Molly, my wife, in the film.
Wow, yeah, well done. So this is a longer film, and I'm sure you've got a lot of things that stick out in your mind. What are some of your favorites?
As far as the story or how we filmed
Takeaways,
it?
you know, could be any part of it, you know, things that you now think, wow, that was a great moment, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, this film has meant something very special to me. I've written several other scripts that I have on deck that I'm looking forward to filming. We're working on a pilot for a show now, and the premise and in development stage for another feature film, totally different style from the Rush Call. But I always felt like the Rush Call we needed to shoot it before I could progress in other productions. There's something special about the story to my heart personally. A lot of it is, like I said, inspired by actual events. Before we shot it, even in the pre-production stage when we were still writing, I actually had considered directing and not even acting in it. I thought maybe let's get another actor to play the role of Jared and I'll just direct from the outside. But I had several friends, colleagues, and even one of my acting coaches say, this story is so close to your heart. I think you really should be the actor in it. We brought on board Trey Riley initially to be the first AD, and I was still going to try to direct it. And he'll share more with you if you ever talk to him. But even the first day of filming, we were planning on I was going to direct and he was going to be first AD. But logistically, that was just a lot to bite off for a 9-day shoot with the budget that we had. So first day of filming, we said, Trey, let's let you just direct the whole thing. So one of my favorite aspects about the production was just growing and my relationship with my friends. I mean, I wrote this film with friends. We cast and crewed it up with friends. I mean, everyone in this film is a friend. And it was such a joy to work together, to collaborate together to bring this story to life. And that's probably my biggest takeaway is just the collaborative effort to give everybody room to speak into the story, to speak into the production. And everyone in indie film wears multiple hats, and everyone did such a wonderful job of contributing, staying in their lanes when needed, but also just contributing. And I'm super happy with how it all turned out.
Oh, there were so many cool twists and turns in it. I was curious to know, did they come along the way, or did you initially know exactly how you wanted to end this?
Okay, so I was speaking with a friend the other day. We had, I think we had written 3 or 4 endings to the film, and even right up to filming, we were still kind of on the fence of like, do we want it to end this way, or should we add this one more thing, or maybe try this? So even the final scene we filmed, I think it was maybe the 3rd or 4th day of shooting. So it wasn't toward the end of production, but it was at the end of the film. And we did several takes of that last scene, and I think just to have them. But once it got into the editing bay, our editor Kent Allen really said, I think this is the one. This is the one that really sells the story. So even Kent, our editor, had spoken to the production of it at the end there of what he thought told the best story. So that was great too.
Yeah, I loved that ending. What are you hoping that the people that watch this film take away from it?
Well, it's an homage to the Charlotte, specifically the Charlotte film community and the North Carolina film community broadly speaking. I'm from Augusta, Georgia, originally, moved to Charlotte to Matthews 6 years ago. And this community really impacted, just enriched my life truly in so many ways. And so when we expanded the short script into the feature script, we were writing with specific people in mind, the people that are in the film, either behind the scenes or in front of the camera, that have really brought this story to life personally for me, but also the story that you see on the screen. So I'm hoping the audiences will take some of that away, just to see at its core, it's a story about family. It's a story about priorities. It's a story about being authentic and true to yourself, not selfishly, but also for those around you that you care about. That's really the basis of the storyline. It's about a family and trying to find their place, being authentically who they are and the world around them, and sticking together to bring that to light.
Yeah, those words, authentically who they are. So, really are part of this film. And I want to thank you very much. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate the Tryon International Film Festival for watching our film, and all of the audience members and fellow filmmakers out there. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making the world a more beautiful place.
And you added another wonderful film to the mass films that are out there. Really nice. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival. Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Terry Brown, who lives in Tryon, North Carolina, as a filmmaker of the short documentary Tidal Alert. Wow, a really good revealing film and something all of us should know about. So I want to know why you made the effort and decided to do this film.
Thank you. I would say first off, my wife and creative partner, Cher Brown, we have a deep passion for the environment and for wildlife as filmmakers. In 2019, we created a web series for the Crystal Coast Waterkeeper that dealt with seismic blasting and offshore drilling on the coast of North Carolina. And from that collaboration, we were asked to film a short documentary dealing with North Carolina fisheries and water quality. And so Tidal Alert is our interpretation of the concerns that were shared by both the recreational as well as the commercial fishing industry.
And you shared so much in that short film. It was amazing how much I learned from that. So what are some of your takeaways?
I think the most important takeaway for us was that although Tidal Alert shines a light on our coastal communities, the issue of water quality is really something that impacts all of us, and we all impact water quality. So we're the contributors. We're the ones that are individually creating the problem, and we're doing that by the choices that we make. It's like the food that we eat, how those animals and plants are grown, the clothing that we wear and what's in those clothing, in the clothing, the medications that we take, the chemicals we put on our yard or in the fields and in the environment. All of those things have a direct impact on water quality, and we're the ones that are contributing to it.
And I think what people don't realize, I'm extremely organic. I like to eat well and do what I'm supposed to do. And I think sometimes that we don't realize, I mean, especially about the plastic.
Exactly.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think people really need to zero in on that.
Well, I don't think people realize, but the microplastics that we're seeing that are getting into the environment and that are showing up in places that people never expected, we're finding a lot of that is coming from the fibers that break down in our clothing. So if you've got something that's made with a synthetic material, then when you do a machine wash, that stuff is not being filtered out. And the water filtration systems that we have are not designed to be able to lift that stuff and keep it from getting back into the water. So what we found in talking with the scientists that we did is, especially, most of our communities here, we draw the water in, we use it and do some type of cleaning to it. And then it's usually put right back into those same, streams or rivers or bodies of water that it's taken out of. So it's this whole cycle that contributes to the problem.
Wow. I know there's so much that you went through when you did the film, but was there one or two things that really shocked you that you were not aware of?
Yeah. One of the things was in dealing with the different scientists and educators that we had involved in the film was just dealing with like animals and the environment that's receiving the drugs that we take. So they're saying that animals are on Prozac or on birth control or whatever the case may be. It's that same thing. The water's drawn in, it goes back out. And all of that stuff doesn't get filtered out like we think. It remains and it goes back into the system. So it's kind of frightening, and it really opens your eyes on so many different levels.
Yeah, and so true. So I want to thank you very much. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
I would. I would like people, in our estimation, Tidal Alert is an alarm. And so having clean water to drink or to recreate in is an issue that doesn't just take place on the coast, but it really affects every single community in the US as well as across the country. And we take it for granted that it's always going to be there when you turn on the tap or whatever. But as we're finding out in places like Flint, Michigan, or Jackson, Mississippi, or any community that's being affected by climate change, that for us, we really believe water is finite and fragile.
Well, a big thank you to you and people like you who share this type of information that we really need to know. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Michelle Mullen, who lives in Asheville, North Carolina, and is the filmmaker for the full-length documentary To Protect and Preserve Historic Flat Rock's Legacy to Keep. What a legacy. I tell you, I learned so much from that film. Thank you for doing it. But I want to know why. It obviously took you a long time. Well done.
Thank you so much, Diana. Well, you know, when you're in Flat Rock, which is the largest historic district in the state of North Carolina, you'll go down the road and you see all these historical markers, like there's one for the Cherokee who traded at these ginormous Flat Rock outcroppings. Or there'll be one for St. John in the Wilderness, which is a little chapel in the woods, you know, built by the Barings. So there's a lot of history surrounding you. But I'll never forget that I was at a historic home tour in 2018 at this place called Saluda Cottages. And Saluda Cottages is a magnificent property. It's 3 stories. It's painted white on the first 2 stories, baby blue on the top. It's got a cupola at the top and a French mansard roof. Wow. So here we all are on this tour, and I'm at the bottom of this grand staircase. And all this light is flooding in from the 3rd and 2nd floor windows. And it was this dramatic moment. And I thought, why hasn't there ever been a film made about all this history? Because this is a great way that it could actually come to life on the screen.
I have to agree with you. There was so much. The people that you chose to share the history knew and were so knowledgeable that they really sort of dug into the history, and then also the pictures were fabulous. So now I know it took you a long time to do this. It takes a long time, right? But yes. What are the things that, you know, when you think back, those special moments that really come back to you?
Well, you know, one of the things that meant the most to Patricia Bradley and I, who's the other filmmaker, is that we were able to get 5th generation descendants in the present that connect back to their great grandparents. And that's the history that we started with. So to have their oral histories was very rewarding. And 2 of them who were in their 70s and 80s had stories that were interwoven to one another. And that was a really happy surprise for us. So it's not just the people, but it's also all these historic properties that are still continuing to thrive today. And that's no accident. It's through the effort of a lot of people. So I think that's what we cherish the most, is this continuity of history.
Okay, and I agree, knowing that there were a couple of people that really could, you know, look back and had lived part of that history. So now the people that watch have finished watching this film. What are you hoping that they take away?
You know, I'm hoping that this is a universal message, not just for Americans, but also for, since this is going to be a worldwide audience, that people will get intrigued and interested. Who started our town and what should we do to preserve? What are the important things? Not just homes, but open lands, keeping waters clean. You know, there's a lot of ecological message, I think, in our film that comes from Tom Belt. And so we want people to revere and really respect their own communities.
Absolutely. You know, just from what I learned, and I'm not even part of that community, I wish that I knew as much about where I am living, right? So I want to thank you very much for joining me this morning. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Yes, I just want to give a big shout out to Bo and Kirk and everybody else at the Tryon Film Festival, International Film Festival, because we really appreciate this opportunity to be included. And the fact that this film can be seen by so many more eyeballs outside of this vicinity is pretty great. So we're excited and we're very appreciative.
Well, thank you very much again. And I'm Diana DeRosa reporting for the Tryon International Film Festival.
Thank you, Diana.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking with Jerry Vanderbeek, who lives in California and is the director and animator of Yellowstone 88, Song of Fire. I love that name and I love this animation. So tell me why you decided to do this.
Hi, Diana. Me and my partner, Betsy DeVries, we have an animation studio in California, just on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge in Mill Valley. And the studio is situated on top of a hill. And we've been there, I think, over 20 years by now. And we've had the studio for about 25 years. And at the end of the day, always we had rolling fog coming in. It was beautiful, but over the years it has been changing. You know, the climate has been changing as we're going. And a couple of years ago, there was one day that the sky was so filled with smoke from all the forest fires around us that the sun didn't even come up. Everything was completely orange. It was super scary. So we kind of decided to tell a story about forest fires, and we started to do research about that. And we knew about the story of Yellowstone, the fires in Yellowstone in 1988. So we kind of decided to tell that story. So that's how we came to that, yeah.
And what a wonderful poem. It really was based around this poem, and it sunk very well. But there was something that actually surprised me, and I wanted to ask you it. The bears are underground. Are they safe when they're underground?
Yes. So no, that's kind of interesting. So first of all, the poem was written by my partner, Betsy DeVries, and which is kind of like another really great thing, like how we combine these different things that we do. She's a really good writer. I do the animation, but when we work on these projects, we really work together. We really we discuss everything, all the scenes, all the animations, and also the content of the piece. And yes, animals do really know how to get out of the way of fires really well. Of course, they can smell it, they can fly away, they stand in water, or they go on the ground. And that's a great insulation for them. So the fire will just run over them, and it doesn't really bother them. And that's the kind of great story about that. It's like, if you want to fight climate change and fight these fires, you also have to understand it, because we approach everything from our perspective as humans, and we don't always approach it from the perspective of other creatures. What for us is a huge problem, because we don't move. We have a house, we have villages, and if a fire comes to us, we don't just pack up and move away. Our community is going to be destroyed. It's very different for animals. And that was the big story in Yellowstone, is that not that many animals died during these fires.
Wow.
Hardly any.
That's really interesting, actually. All right, so it took you a long time to do this film, obviously. Animation takes a while, but you always have a lot of good memories. So tell me about some of those great memories.
Well, a lot of good memories, but it's always the last memories that you can really remember. But so we've been working on it for a very long time, Betsy and me. And then comes this moment that we started collaborating with other people, and Peter Coyote came on board to voice the poem, and Mark Murphy from Secrets and Machines in Dublin came on board to do the music. And what's so great about that is that so you've been working on this kind of like in your little silo, and suddenly these other artists come on board and add their talent to it, which changed the entire piece. I mean, the way Peter reads the poem was completely different than the way we were reading it for ourselves. And the music was also quite different than we first had in mind. So, all these things elevate this piece to a level that, you just cannot do it on your own, basically. And that is a really good memory. for me.
Yeah, I got to say that I listen to audiobooks all the time. I never read
Okay.
because I do so much reading. And what a difference the voice makes. It really does bring a different picture and make it even better. So yeah, I totally agree with
Yeah,
that.
and Peter Coyote is really well known, of course. He does all the voiceovers for the documentaries of Ken Burns. So, you know, he has this great, not only a great voice, but it's very hard to read a poem and actually really understand the poem, really understand what you're reading. So if you just get somebody in to read something and they don't really grasp what it is about, it doesn't come across. And Peter does that so beautifully.
And his pacing was beautiful as well. Well, I want to thank you very much for joining me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
Well, we really enjoyed making this small documentary, and which is kind of like an interesting thing on its own, because most of the time animations are linked to kind of made up stories, and this is a bit in between. It's a bit of a story, kind of like our own interpretation of the real fires that happened, but from a different perspective, from the perspective of the animals. And I think that might be a great way of getting people to connect with these issues down the line. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really feel it's a great educational piece. And thanks again. And I am Diana DeRosa reporting for the Trian International Film Festival.
And everybody have a great time at the festival. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Diana DeRosa, and I'm speaking to Trey Riley, who lives in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and is the writer and director of the narrative short film Youth. Great film, and I want to know why you decided to create this film.
I wanted to challenge myself with a period piece, and I know the 90s aren't that far away, but it is coming up on 3 decades now, so I guess you could consider it that. And so by doing that, I thought, well, why not make something that's kind of like a love letter to my childhood and how I grew up? And so that was kind of the conduit to how this story came to be.
Well, I can definitely see that connection there. I mean, I know that we've all had someone that was very important in our lives. So when you think back about creating this film, I'm sure it took you longer than you anticipated. It always does, but there's always some wonderful memories. So what are some of yours?
I think an interesting thing I learned working with 2 younger actresses on this project was how much we still rely on in-person interaction. You know, today we spend so much time texting and on Zoom calls and things like that. But even still, both of these young ladies talked a lot about how they still enjoy spending time just face to face with their friends. And so I thought that was really interesting and kind of a cool thing, because I'm kind of an old soul, and sometimes it just feels like we're losing touch with like humanity, with relationships and things like that. And so that was really a cool thing to see through the filming process.
Yeah, and I actually loved that you created, I mean, when they're pounding each other and throwing up, you know, whatever, it was just so much, you know, youth, what it was about. So that was great. What are you hoping that the people watching your film, who just finished watching your film, take away from it?
Yeah, one of my producers said it best. She was talking about how it would be cool if someone left this and looked back at maybe an old friend or found someone on Facebook that they went to school with or something, and, you know, just reached out, see how they're doing. And I think we've all had, like you mentioned, that experience of having those close friends and either moving away or something's happened and you no longer are in touch with them. And so that would be really cool for me. Obviously, I would never get to see those stories, but I hope people decide to do something like that.
Cool. And my friend's in California, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, I really love this festival, and I hope everyone's able to enjoy a lot of other great films.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very much for the chat. And I am Diana DeRosa reporting for the Trian International Film Festival.